समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। Hari Om, Namaskar. My salutations to everybody. Chanakya once told, creation and destruction are in the hands of a teacher. A teacher is responsible for creative force and also the destructive force on the planet. Because every student at some point of time was under a teacher. If at that moment we could guide them correctly, then that student would become a blessing, a benediction to the people of, benediction to everybody on earth. And if that child becomes destructive, then it is a curse. So creation or destruction are in the hands of a teacher. We have a job to see that we inspire students consistently. In this regard, the Hindu education system, if you see, had always two types of knowledge, Paravidya and Aparavidya. Paravidya, absolute knowledge. Aparavidya, not infinite knowledge. Infinity and finite, both were combined. Para and Apara. Spiritual, secular. Sacred, secular. This was the combination. Education is complete only when both are combined. If someone is academically brilliant but cannot face a small problem in life, then that person has failed education. The education has let that person down. So it is important we understand that academic brilliance must have backing of spiritual understanding. Spiritual clarity should also have should have academic brilliance. A combination of these two is what we try in Chinmaya Vidyalaya. That is the vision which Gurudev had. So in this regard, we have brought out a new set of books called Life and Aradhana. Life and Aradhana. Life itself is a beautiful thing, decorative offering to the Lord, which we offer to Him as a glory. This is nothing new. It has the same 7 topics which is there in CVS, in Chinmaya Vision program, in CVP. Physical, emotional, intellectual, cultural, spiritual, nationalism, and universal outlook. 7 topics. The earlier books also covered the same, but time to time in the field of education, we need to convey something which that generation understands. So we came up with this book, new methods, new stories, new workshops, and new ways of reaching out, same content, but the way in which we can inspire. So it's a new set of stories, but the values remains the same. This is what is Life and Aradhana. I'm sure this would serve for another 7 to 10 years, and somebody else can come and update it, retaining the essence, but presentation skills can change. So we have come up with this new book, and I'm so happy all of you are keen on picking up how to empower children with these books. So it is really, really heartening to know that so many Chinmaya Vidyalaya teachers and teachers of other schools are keen in knowing how to do this. I'm also grateful to Oxford University Press for coming forward to publish this book. So here we go with a new training. I'm sure with this combination, we would be in a position to bring up children who are academically brilliant and spiritually brilliant. A combination of this would make the child live life to his or her full potential. Otherwise, we live life at surface level, superficial. In-depth living has to come, then we should have insight into spiritual life as well as the material life. This is what the age-old tradition is, Lakshmi and Vishnu, Lakshmi and Narayana. Lakshmi, material prosperity, Narayana, spiritual wisdom. A combination of this makes life complete. Thank you very much.
Hari Om, thank you so much. I hope all of you got the message clearly that we are the change makers and we have to influence children. We'll have now a quick video of the presenters or the facilitators. A group of Yuvaveers and Swami Anukulananda and Shanti Amma have been part of this whole project. So can I request Arun to quickly play the video?
Namaste and Hari Om everybody. My name is Rohini and I am a yoga teacher. I have been teaching for the past 13 years and really love and breathe everything to do with the body and the mind and that connection. I will be taking you through the physical development section of the Life of Aradhana workshops over the next few days, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you all and getting on this journey of learning together. Namaste and see you soon.
Hari Om. My name is Vidhi Modi. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Commerce at Edraj College for Women, Chennai. My association with Mission has been for over a decade now, and I am blessed to be a part of this project as well. I have co-authored the intellectual development modules here, and I look forward to interacting with you all. Thank you. Hari Om. Namaste.
Hari Om. My name is Harsha Murlidhar. I'm an entrepreneur by profession, but a teacher by passion, and I have been associated with Chinmaya Mission for more than 10 years. I'm very happy to facilitate the spiritual development sessions of this beautiful workshop. Looking forward to seeing all of you. Hari Om.
Hari Om. My name is Gayatri Panikar and I'm a Chinmaya Balvihar Sevika. I have worked on the Universal Outlook module for Life and Aradhana. I've been involved with the Chinmaya Mission for the past 8 years. I joined in as a student and now enjoy myself teaching children.
Hari Om. I am Brahmachari Sanatan Chaitanya, a monk from the Chinmaya Mission. I have been working with the students of Chinmaya International Residential School since 2016 after studying Vedanta at the Sandipani Sadhanalaya, Powai. Spirituality, Indian culture, Hinduism and civilizational knowledge systems excite and inspire me a lot. I will be working with the emotional development aspect of this workshop with all of you. I am really looking forward to meeting and working with everyone. Thank you.
Hari Om. My name is Swami Anukulananda. I serve at the Chinmaya International Residential School. I am also part of the CCMT Education Cell as one of the zonal directors. I co-authored the Indian Culture section of Life and Aradhana Value Education series. It's my pleasure to be part of this training program and learn with all of you. I look forward to meeting you in these 4 days of training. Hari Om.
Hari Om. I am Radha Narayanan. I was part of Chinmaya Yuva Kendra since 2004. I did the youth empowerment program where youngsters gave 1 year of our lives for the service of the nation. I did my BE, EEE and MBA. I currently run my business called Gurukul, where I take ancient Indic wisdom to current generation youngsters through games, storytelling and much more. In this book, I have been part of the patriotism section. I co-authored that segment and I'll be very happy sharing my thoughts on it with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. That was a wonderful introduction by all the co-authors of the series Life and Aradhana. I now request Swami Anukulananda to take over. There's just a little switch in the schedule if people are going through it. We will first have Indian culture today. Thank you. Hari Om Swamiji, welcome.
Thank you. So, the first session that we're going to have is on Indian culture. But even before we start going through the lessons, and in particular, I would like to revise for the benefit of the people who joined just today. This is the second year that we are introducing Life and Aradhana as our value education book for our Chinmaya Vidyaliyas. Last year, as all of you know, was, or this year, I would say, as all of you know, was a Corona year and we could not introduce the book to all of us. That was not possible. So those schools which could implement it, they took it up voluntarily and they implemented the value education book. But from the coming year 2021-22, the coming June onwards, all our Chinmaya Vidyalayas and the vision schools, we will be implementing Life and Aradhana as our value education book. So therefore, we organize this particular training program so that we all can be on the same page and we can make our value education classes really valuable for all of our children. So as Swami Mitranji also mentioned, this value education book is completely based on the 7 aspects of CVP: physical, mental, intellectual, spiritual, patriotic, Indian culture and universal outlook. So every lesson that we take, the lesson to which aspect does it relate to, that is given on top of the page number which is written on each page. So we see just where the page number is written, just on top in a semicircle, the aspect to which it is relating to, that lesson is relating to, that is present there. And under every aspect, there is also a subtopic. So for example, in Indian culture, though the lesson relates to Indian culture, under Indian culture, certain lessons relate to cultural motivation, or certain lessons relate to festivals, or certain lessons relate to cultural heritage and awareness. Like this, the subtopic is also given, and therefore that will give us such clarity on what the lesson is given to us for. Usually the title of the lesson conveys what is the idea of the lesson, but in Life in Aradhana, the title may or may not directly relate to the domain. Okay, so the title is given according to the story that we are trying to present. So therefore, looking at the title, we should not conclude to which aspect the CVP is connected in that particular lesson. Okay, so having said that, third one is the objective. So what is the objective of the lesson is very clearly given right at the beginning of the lesson. The most important thing that we should remember is that the lesson should achieve these objectives. So when we say should achieve these objectives, what does it mean? It means that change should happen in the child. That is what is expected. Even yesterday I had mentioned that when we go to the doctor, right, what is the doctor supposed to do? The doctor is supposed to improve the health of the patient, right? If we go to the doctor, doctor speaks to us very well, and the doctor charges fees and gives us some medicine and sends us back. That is not enough. Finally, it should remove my disease and it should improve my health. That is the good doctor. If my health does not improve, then I don't go back to that doctor, I go to some other doctor, because this doctor is not effective. In the same way, when the child comes to the teacher, the child should change, right? The child's attitude should change, the child's behavior should change, everything about the child should change by attending our classes. So therefore, the test of our success is the change in behavior, the change in thinking, the change in speaking, the change in attitude of the child. So this we should achieve. And how we achieve this? We've got the lesson as our tool, and we've got the activities as our tool. We've got different ideas as our tool to implement in the class so that the child will change. So for the child to change, we have certain aspects. So what is that? We have to help the child by giving the child tips to change. So what are the habits the child should practice? At the end of the lesson, we have to give the child practice these habits, and therefore you will change. That has to come. That is one thing. Second, but if the child has to practice it, the child should be convinced, right? Saying this value is important for me. So we have to give the child the moral reasoning, the moral logic, the moral evidences because of which the child will be convinced, saying that yes, this is important for me and I should live this. Right? So that is called precept. So we should give precept. Precept means the moral reasoning, the moral logic, the evidences which will convince the child intellectually, saying this is important. As I said, we should give them tips, the habits that they have to practice so that that particular value is imbibed. Third, we should also give them what is called moral literacy. Moral literacy means examples from our scriptures. Our children should know that these values have been practiced by the great people in our scriptures like Ramayana, Mahabharata, like our Bhagavatam, or the local amazing texts that we have, let us say in Tamil Nadu, we have Shiva Puranam and such text we have. So from, or Ramcharitamanas, or whichever text. From the text, our children should know examples of people who followed that value or probably people who did not follow that value. So that is called moral literacy, or probably we can take up even quotations from those texts, right? So the children from Chinmaya Vidyalaya know that from Bhagavatam this is said about this particular value, from Mahabharata this is particularly said, from the Bhagavad Gita this is said. Our children should know. So this is called moral literacy. And the fourth that has to be there is called example. So who are the people who are examples for this value? So first, as we said, from moral literacy, we have people from our scriptures. Second, we should also give example of contemporary people, people who are living right now, so that the children can relate. Saying that, yeah, people lived this value not only long ago, but even today people are living this value and succeeding. That is important. But most important is that we become the examples for the value, because the child is directly seeing us. Child is not seeing Virat Kohli. Child is not seeing Abdul Kalam ji. Child is not seeing Gandhi ji. But the child is seeing all of us, and we are right in front of the child. So therefore, the child has to derive inspiration of living the value from us. So as I said yesterday, if we say Gandhiji lives the value, if we say Virat Kohli lives the value, the child will ask us, what about you, ma'am? What about you, sir? And if we say, no, I don't live the value because it is too difficult, then the child will say, ma'am, if it is difficult for you, what about me? It will be so much more difficult for me, therefore drop it. I don't want this value. So we should be the example for the value. We may not be perfect, but we should tell the children, this is how I try to practice this value. These are the difficulties I face, but yet I try to practice it. So we should be the example, and finally we should give the habit. So you see, precept, the moral logic, moral literacy, the understanding from the scriptures. Third, we should give them examples, and we should be examples for that. And fourth, we should give them the habits. The same is connected to our lessons in the form of the objectives. The objectives have what are called three things: knowing, feeling, and doing. Okay, so what the child should know from the lesson, that is called knowing. Understanding the value, that is knowing. But if we do not feel an emotion towards something, we won't care for it. For example, what do we call that? We have a feeling for India. So when India something is happening, we feel yes, yes, yes. For example, ISRO launched its rocket day before yesterday. One new rocket it launched. We feel great. Yes, India did it. America is also launching a lot of rockets. But we don't celebrate that because we don't identify with America. But when we identify with India, we have a feeling, and that feeling makes us do something for our country. So too, when we have a feeling for the value, then we will do something. Only when we have feeling for the people of our country, we will do something for our country. Is it not? So therefore, feeling has to be created for that particular value. And third, there has to be what is called doing. Because having feeling and doing nothing about it is of no purpose. Because anyway, I didn't do anything about it, right? Because finally, doing something physically or putting something into action, that alone will bring change. Wanting to exercise will not improve our health even by 1%. Swamiji, for last 4 years, I wanted to exercise. Congratulations. Did your health improve? No, Swamiji, it went bad only. That is correct. That is how it will be. Because wanting to exercise will not improve health. Actually, exercising only will improve health. So too, whatever we finally do, only that is going to help us. So when we teach the value, the child should practice the value. And only that which is practiced will bring change. Nothing else will bring change. So as a teacher, what am I supposed to do? As a teacher, I should inspire and I should ensure that the child takes up practice of the value. So our assessment should be, has the child practiced the value? Generally, our assessment is, does the child know the value? Does the child know the examples for the value? All that we check. But finally, did the child practice the value? Swamiji, that is the child's responsibility, Swamiji. Or that is the parent's responsibility, Swamiji. No. Whether the child practiced the value is my responsibility, because I am the trainer for the child. So to inform the child is not the only work of the teacher. To transform the child is the work of the teacher. Because to get information, we have Google. To get transformation, there has to be a teacher. So we are not Google, we are teachers. And as teachers, we have to connect with them and we have to ensure that we transform them. Only that way we are effective as teachers. And only then we can achieve what we want as school with a difference. This is the basic idea of our value education program. So 1 year the child is with us. We are going to teach around 20 to 25 lessons. And through the teaching of these lessons, these children should imbibe the values. For that, whatever I need to do, that is what we'll have to take care of. These are the basic things for all the classes that we are going to attend today, tomorrow, and day after. So this basic information we'll have to take up. So as I mentioned to you, we are seeing classes 3 and classes 4. So I'm taking up Indian culture, and in Indian culture, we are taking up 4 lessons, but we will cover as many as we can now. In the next 20 minutes we'll cover what we can. So here we have the lesson number 5 from class 3, and it is called Makara Sankranti. We have taken up a festival which is practiced all over the country. Okay, so Makara Sankranti in Kerala, we call it Makara Sankranti. In Tamil Nadu, we call it Pongal. In Punjab, we call it in Assam, we call it Bihu, and Lori, we call it in Punjab. Like this, different names are there for this particular festival. So you see the domain is Indian culture, or the aspect is Indian culture, and the subtopic is what? Subtopic is festivals. We are teaching the child about festivals. And you see here, there are a lot of farmers, people in the village and all that are there who come to celebrate the festivals with us. So what are the objectives? Objectives we divided as knowing, feeling, and doing. So what is the objective? The first objective we have, the child should understand the significance of why we celebrate festivals. Because festivals in our culture is not some action, it has a lot of background, it has got a lot of meaning to it. And therefore, celebrating festivals is meaningful only when we know why we are celebrating the festival, because every festival has a value connected to that festival and we are celebrating the value. For example, why do we celebrate birthday? Swamiji, we celebrate birthday because everybody celebrates birthday. No, we celebrate birthday to remind ourselves the value of human life. If we forget the value of human life, then there is no point in celebrating birthday, right? So birthday celebration becomes meaningful when we remind ourselves the value of human birth. So too, when we celebrate Makar Sankranti, we should, or any festival, we should know the value. Second, we should remember the contribution of the farmers, etc. And this culture of celebrating festivals brings the whole country together. Now, what is the feeling? The feeling has to be gratitude. Because we got from sun, we got from food, we got from the cows, we got from farmers, etc. So we should have the sense of gratitude. We should also have the sense of oneness. So now what to do? In the sense, what is the practice which the child has to take up after developing this lesson? After understanding this lesson, what should the child do? Makara Sankranti is worship to sun god. So the child has to start practicing the Gayatri mantra as a daily practice every day. Okay, so that is why we have the festival. The festival is to worship the sun. So from that day, we should worship the sun every day by chanting the Gayatri mantra. Second, we should also have the practice of expressing gratitude to food and gratitude to God every day before we eat food. These two should happen. Then we have achieved the purpose. Like yesterday I mentioned, we have to remember why festivals are important, because it is in the festival that we celebrate the values. If we forget the festival, we will forget what it stands for. We will forget what its values are, and therefore, to remind us, we need the festivals. Festivals like Navaratri, festivals like Shivaratri, we practice sadhana also. Special sadhana we do, and therefore these special sadhanas help us strengthen ourselves. You see, festivals in India also, we have a lot of sharing. Correct? Lot of coming together. Every day in the morning, we are waking up, running to school, coming back. Next day, again running to school, coming back. And on Sundays, stay at home, take as much rest as possible, again Monday go. But when it comes to festival, what happens? We all come together. I'm celebrating, you are celebrating, all of us are celebrating together. So it brings the sense of oneness. Right? And why should we understand festivals? Because for some reasons, political, religious reasons, people are criticizing our festivals. So we should know about our festival so we can defend our culture. That is very, very important. Okay, so now we are discussing the festival of Makara Sankranti. So what are the main messages which our children should get? One message is why farmers are important to our living. Of course, this is given in our books also, so we can read that. So first, why farmers are important? That is an important idea. Second, Why cows are important? See, this is our culture, this is Indian culture, right? And therefore, in our culture, cows are important. Why are cows important? Cow is like our mother. When we were 1 year old, we stopped drinking mother's milk. But from then to the time when we die, we drink cow's milk. So cow is like our mother, and we should consider this sentiment very, very, very sacred in our mind. Right? Because for the Western mind, everything is utilitarian, that is all. Everything is a product, that's all. But for us, cows are not products. For us, cow is mother. So this value we should have in our mind, because anything looked at as a product has no value to it. Right? So cow becomes a product. All vegetables become product, nature becomes product. So what do? We do not give any value to it. It has only utilitarian value. But when we give sacredness to it, then we preserve it, we protect it, we worship it. And therefore, it remains protected. So we should not, what do we call that? We should give value to cow, saying cow is my mother. This is my culture. Right? So therefore, this part of Indian culture, we should especially specify to the children. The cows give us bulls, and even today, bulls are used in agriculture so much. Right? Not only that, please do some research and you will find that a living cow is so much more worth than cow as meat. So much research has been done. And it has been proved so much that even economic wise, a living cow is more worth than a dead cow. So having a cow at home is the greatest thing. And next point is, cow is not to be looked only as money. Right? It has spiritual significance, it has cultural significance. Not only that, cow is a real producer of something that we need to consume. Just by having money, we cannot drink money, we cannot eat money. The cow actually produces milk, and therefore the cow becomes useful to us. So this point we'll have to remember. Third one, why is nature important? We have to preserve nature and we have to worship nature. If land is not fertile, gone. If rivers don't give water, it's gone. If ponds don't have water, it is gone. If we don't have rainfall, gone. If we have ozone depletion and there are UV rays, then we are dead. Correct? So nature also has to be served and preserved. So nature is very, very important. We take holidays, but nature never takes holidays. Nature serves us, so we can learn from nature also. And next aspect is, why is food sacred? Food is also very, very important. And food should be looked at as a sacred thing. Right? Again, not just for consumption, but that food nourishes my life. And therefore, we should feel gratitude to food. We should not say, cha cha, what is this food and all that. We should not say. And not only that, when we celebrate Makara Sankranti, it also boosts our economy. Right? So many things we purchase from the farmers more. And therefore, the farmers are also benefited. So we have Makara Sankranti. So what should be the class arrangement? It is a festival connected to nature, so we can sit below a tree and then have this particular class, or because it is connected to villages, children can sit on the floor and we can have the class. Okay? How do we introduce this lesson? We can talk about, where do you go to celebrate your festivals? Right? Because the best place we can go to celebrate our festivals, especially Makara Sankranti, is our villages. Because that is where we see all the beauty of the festival itself. At home in Chennai or in Bombay, in a flat, we will go to the kitchen and then make pongal in a pressure cooker. Already we are in pressure cooker. Now again we go to pressure cooker and make pongal, there is no release. But when we go to the village and then we celebrate it, there is so much release and there is so much joy. There is so much happiness. So we should go to the villages and celebrate our festivals. The second section of it is the first section. If you see, The first section talks about what is the purpose of the festival, which we have covered already. The second section of the festival talks about, in the lesson, talks about how the festival is celebrated in different places. You see here in Gujarat, there is the World Kite Festival. In Gujarat, you see, it's a very big festival, and we can show children videos of that. In Punjab, we have Lohri. In Assam, Bihu, you see the Bihu dance is happening. We have that. And in Tamil Nadu, of course, we have got the Pongal festival. So we can show the children video clips of all of these things. And most importantly, what should we ensure? We should ensure that the children chant the Gayatri Mantra and learn how to chant the Gayatri Mantra. Let's remember that the Gayatri Mantra is a Vedic mantra, and therefore it should not be taught in the singing tune. To popularize it, yes, singing tune is there, but we should try to get our children to learn the proper Vedic chanting of the Gayatri Mantra, and that is most effective, and therefore our children should chant that way. Not just Om Bhuvasuva Atsavitur Varenyam, not that tune. Okay, we should teach them the proper chanting of it. Okay, and this becomes their practice, and we should explore how our children practice all this. So now the story goes, we have an animation, as I told you, the animation is available and we can use it to show it to the children. So what are the activities? We can do a few activities. One activity, bend like the farmer. It is not there in our book. Okay, I just thought of this, so I thought I should share with you. The farmer, in order to plant the seed and to even harvest the crop, the farmer bends and stands like that. Do you know how difficult and how painful it is? It is really painful. So the child should be given a little bit of experience for that. So you can have some buttons, right? Let us say 1,000 buttons, or you can, it will be one packet. Or you can have certain other things and you can put it on the floor and ask the children to pick it up. Even if they stand there bending for 2 minutes, if they bend, they will start catching their hips. And they'll say, Ayyo Amma, Ayyo Amma. And then you can tell the children, the farmer stands like this for 4 hours, 5 hours, planting the saplings so that you can eat rice. The farmer bends like this for 4 hours, cutting and harvesting so that you can eat food. So shouldn't we thank farmers for all the effort? So this can be one activity. Most fun activity, and teaching them the tradition. We can organize the Makara Sankranti as a festival in our own school. Some of our schools are already doing it. We can also have, because it's a, what do we call that, multi-state, it's a national festival, different states have the festival and they have dance with that. So we can organize a dance extravaganza, we can organize a dance program. That will be really beautiful. Or we can even organize, play with India. So cricket, football and all the children will learn. For that we are not required. But to teach our children our traditional games, which we also played. In Tamil Nadu we call it Pambaram. The top, the spinning top, or goti, or whatever we call it, to play, children have not played that. Our children have played only PUBG. They have not played the traditional real games. The cycle tire game. All these children are not played. They only played cricket or football or something. So we can let our children explore the joy of games. On this particular day, you can organize 13, 14 games, divide the children into different games, and we can do it. So now coming to example, you remember I was talking to you about example. So how did our people serve the farmers? We can talk about the Bhudan movement by Vinoba Bhave. who got land for the landless laborers and he made them self-sufficient. Like that, we should serve the farmers. Also, we can expand on that. What did our Gurudev do? Because this is Chinmaya school and our children should know about Gurudev, and Gurudev did such great work. So we have Gurudev who did work for the CORD organization, right? Through Chinmaya organization for rural development, Gurudev helped the farmers get knowledge. Gurudev helps the farmers become self-sufficient, and through CORD, we are even teaching them what are the government schemes that are available, which the farmers can use so that they can increase their income. Now, next we have to give our own example, right? So we have to tell them, what do I do? So we have to tell them that I buy vegetables from the local market, because through the local market, the farmers will get money directly, most probably, because so that is one thing. Second, you can tell them, I chant the Gayatri Mantra and I worship the sun every day. You can tell them, I celebrate Makara Sankranti in a traditional manner. You can tell them, I worship the cows and therefore I don't eat beef. Right? You can tell them, I volunteer once a week for conducting tuitions for farmers' children, for poor children. I conduct tuitions. You can do that. And you can say, before eating every meal, I thank God I never waste food, because the food has come with so much effort and by God's blessings it has come. So I don't, like this, you can give examples of how you practice the values in your own life. And finally, we have to give children what they can do. These are the habits which the child has to practice. So we can tell the children, visit a Goshala and spend some time with cows once a month. They can apply that. Or they, we have to tell them, chant the Gayatri Mantra every day, right? We can inspire them to go to a village and celebrate Makara Sankranti with their grandparents. We have to tell our children, because we are Indian, when we follow Indian culture, we have to tell them, please do not eat beef, do not eat cow's meat, do not eat beef. We have to tell them that, because they are like your mother and you can't eat your mother, right? Next one, we have to tell them, pray before you eat, never waste food. We have to tell them. So how do we assess whether we have been effective? We have to check whether the children are chanting Gayatri Mantra every day. We have to check. Ask the parents, ask the children and get a feedback. Second, how many children have stopped wasting food in the last week? They should check. Because these are the changes we are expecting to happen through the teaching of the lesson. So this has to practically happen. So if this has happened, excellent, we have made the change. Third, how many children found out about the traditional celebration of Makara Sankranti? In the sense, they have to go back to their own house, they have to ask their parents, they have to ask their grandparents how to celebrate Makara Sankranti traditionally. What do we actually do? So how many children did that? And we can also ask how many children visited a Goshala after this lesson. Because today is a generation which says, where do you get milk? The child says, we get milk from the supermarket. Because a child has never ever seen a cow being milked directly. The child has not seen. If at all the child has seen in pictures, child has seen in cartoons. Many children have not seen a cow in reality. Right? So we should remember and we should give them those experiences. This is about Makara Sankranti. Okay, the next lesson that we are to take up is another aspect, that is about talking puppets. Okay, this is from class 3. So before I even take class 3, I think I'll take one more lesson in class 4. Okay, that will be good for us. So class 4. So let's take with class 4. Okay. So we have class 4 lesson. And in class 4, I'm taking the lesson number 12 in class 4, and it is called Pancharana, or our 5 deaths. You see here, we took festivals one, and now we are taking Indian culture and traditions. Okay, so here the hero for this lesson is Dadima. And please look at Dadima's, what do we call that? Punch dialogue. Like Rajnikant has punch dialogue, this Dadima has punch dialogue. She's according to the story, she's an IAS officer, retired. So the child is asking, the child's name is Banu, and the child is asking, Dadima, you were an IAS officer, you worked so hard, you retired, now why are you working so hard? So Dadima is telling, I have retired from my job, not from working. So the idea is we should continue working and we should continue serving till death. We should not say I am retired, therefore I will only sit simply. Right? So there's a very active, wonderful, heroic Dadima that we have in this particular lesson. So she's going to tell us about customs and traditions. That's what she's going to tell us. And what custom and tradition? She's going to tell us about the custom and tradition called Pancharana, the 5 debts that we have in our life and we should fulfill. So what are that? So what is the knowing? Knowing means it is our duty to repay the debts that we have. We have 5 debts that we have to repay. What is that? And basically we should realize that we have received so much from the world. We should do that. And when will we do that? When we have gratitude towards the entire universe for what we have received, only the gratitude will make us give back to the world. And third, we tell, prepare a weekly or a monthly or a daily plan to repay the debts that we have. Okay. So the first aspect is what we have to realize: we have received so much from the world. For example, our rishis, our munis, and even our scientists have worked their entire life to discover knowledge, and we are getting this knowledge just like that. See, example, we are studying about gravitation, correct? We know the formula for gravitation, and we study that in one period. In a physics class, we study in one period, which is like 20 minutes, 40 minutes, we study about gravitation. And you know how this happened? Because Newton spent 30 years researching on this knowledge and discovering this knowledge. Newton and of course before that rishis in our own culture have spent so much time. Therefore, we have this knowledge. Shouldn't we thank them for that? And not only that, just as they discovered the knowledge, shouldn't we also share this knowledge with other people? That is our duty. So we have a duty towards our ancestors, towards our teachers. We have our duty. Okay. So how do we repay them? Newton has gone long back. Now where do we repay Newton? So we have the concept, pay it not back, but pay it forward. So just as Newton gave us, we should give to the others. This is called the Pancharana concept. Okay. So the lesson talks about what are the Pancharanas. We have what is called a Rishi Rina. You see here, Rishi Rina. Rishi Rina means our debt towards our teachers, our ancestors who taught us the knowledge. So we have a debt to pay towards knowledge. Second, there are people living around us, and those people like the tailor, like the farmer, they are doing so much for us, right? Only when they live well, we can live well. So we have a debt towards them for what they contribute to us. That is called Manushya Rina. Third, we have Bhuta Rina. There are so many animals, there are so many birds. Yesterday, those who attended, you would have remembered that bees, honeybees, if honeybees are not there, in 20 years, human population will die. All living beings will not be there. If honeybees are not there. So you see how living beings are contributing to us. If trees are not there, what will happen? Right? So we have debt towards the nature, that is called Bhutarina. Then we have debt towards our ancestors and our elders. We have a debt. They have given so much to us. They are giving their blessings to us. They have brought us up. Because of them, we came into the world. We exist. So we have a debt towards them. That is called Pitrurina. And then we have a debt towards God. God is taking care of us. Like that, we have the Panchamahabhutas. They are also called Deva, and therefore we have a debt towards them. That is called Devarana. So how to repay that? That lesson is also giving us ideas of how to repay Rishirana. First of all, study well, respect your teachers, and third, contribute to the growth of knowledge. So if there's a research center, the research center needs money. So you give money to support research. You do research by yourself. If you can't, support researchers. Only then they can take up research and they can take up knowledge. This is Rishirana. Manusharana, give dana to the dina, help the poor people, help the sick people. Like that we can do Rishirana. Bhutarana, plant trees, take care of animals, do not hurt animals, feed the birds, etc. Like this we can take a Bhutarana. Pitrurana, our elders and our ancestors. So we should do Pitrakarya, Pitrakarma, we should do, and second, we should take care of the elders in our society. Like that we should also do. And finally we have Devarana. So in Devarana, two things. One is we should worship God, right? And second thing, we should also take care of the 5 elements, and therefore we should take care of the oceans, we should take care of air, we should take care of earth and all that. We should not only not pollute it, we should serve it also. So like that, these ideas are given in our lesson. Again, examples, we should take up what kings and queens did. So kings and queens, you see what they did? They built temples. Devarana was taken care of. They dug water reservoirs, they dug ponds, they dug wells. So we have Devarana taken care of. They built shelters for travelers. Manusharana, they distributed food to the poor. Manusharana was taken care of. They supported scholars. So you have Rishirana also taken care of. You see how they took care of all their ranas? Right? What did Gurudev do? Gurudev started God, so Manusharana was taken care of. Gurudev taught scriptures to everybody, Rishirana was taken care of. Gurudev had Goshalas in different ashrams, so Bhutarana was taken care of. Gurudev built temples, so Devarana was taken care of. Gurudev started certain old age homes, so Pitrurana was also taken care of. So this we should give as examples. Now what do I do? I continue studying new things even today. If we don't study new things today, then let us start studying new things today, because by studying we preserve knowledge. I keep food and water for birds. Probably we are doing that, we should share that. I perform puja every day. I visit my neighborhood temple and I offer seva. See, our temples have to be preserved. We cannot say somebody will preserve the temple. The temple belongs to us and we should take care of that. Then I sponsor education for 3 children every year. Like that, you can give your own examples. Or I take care of my old parents and grandparents. I perform Pitrakarya. Like that, we can give our examples, and then we can also tell the children what they can do. So for the children, what can they do? We have this in our exercise book. Okay, what the children can do, this is given, and The same thing is given as a table in the teacher's handbook that has all these elements, and that also has columns: daily, weekly, monthly, like that. It has columns. So certain things children can do daily, certain things children can do weekly, certain things children can do monthly. So that becomes their habit. So this way the children can practice and learn and understand how to bring in these elements. Okay, so you see how we can teach customs and traditions and all that, and what we can do. So this way we can achieve the purpose of transformation and get the habit going. Okay, so this is the way we can plan our lesson and execute it. And most important is the assessment, where we achieve the transformation. Thank you very much. We will again meet tomorrow with classes 5 and 6 for more lessons on Indian culture. Hari Om.
Thank you, Somaji. Hari Om. Round of applause for you. Thank you so much.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Thank you.
So